I really didn't want to do this review. I like talking about airbrushes with quirks, strengths, flaws and imperfections, because they keep me interested and give me plenty to discuss. But when it comes to the Iwata Custom Micron Takumi, what can I say about an airbrush that is as perfect as it can be? It's just not fun for me, but I'll do my best, so here it is. We owe the custom micron design, as well as that of many other Japanese airbrushes available today, to the Olympos Airbrush company, which was established in the mid-1950s. They were the true founding fathers of modern airbrushing, innovating at a time when Japan was emerging as a global industrial powerhouse, known for the quality of its products. It was a time of unmatched creativity, when a new airbrush design would come out every year, like smartphones today. Nowadays, we are lucky to get a new model from an established brand every 15 to 20 years. While Olympos shut its doors in the mid-80s, many of their successful designs were sold to Iwata, and I'm glad they were. Too many great airbrush companies have closed down, taking their amazing designs to the grave. I mean, can you imagine a world without the custom micron? I can't. I don't even want to think about it. Just thinking about it gives me a sense of emptiness and despair. The first micron ever produced was the Olympos MP200, first introduced in 1982, and it blows my mind to think about the genius behind that design. At this point, it's over 40 years old and still arguably considered the king of detail airbrushes. Nothing today quite compares to the micron's performance. I'm not saying there aren't other excellent detail airbrushes I'll put head to head with it, but the micron's build quality, trigger response, smooth atomization, gentle paint flow, dye spray pattern, user-friendliness, and everything else that makes up its head assembly are what make it truly unique. As a miniature painter obsessed with detail, it's a dream come true. It's everything I could ever ask for, and that's also the reason why I never use it. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I don't like it, it's the opposite. I probably like it too much. Back in the day, it was my main working tool, but nowadays, when I start a new project, I tend to gravitate towards airbrushes with more conflicted personalities, different strengths, weaknesses, not as perfect, tools that challenge my technique, that force me to explore and adapt until I feel like I've unlocked their full potential. I know, this may not make sense to everyone, but this is basically how I approach everything in life. All my friends drive BMWs, Mercedes or Maseratis, and they make fun of me when I pull up next to them, because clearly I have a far more refined taste in cars. Let's talk specs. With the stock cup installed, the Micron Takumi weighs 95 grams. Not exactly the lightest detail airbrush out there, though calling any airbrush heavy is a stretch. At 25 psi, it has an approximate air velocity of 4.2 meters per second, among the lowest on the market. Each component of the air assembly, nozzle, needle, air cap and head base are supposedly hand-matched and tested for peak spray performance. According to the company, the custom Micron Takumi comes with a 0.18mm nozzle. It doesn't get much smaller than that, right? Except it's not. The nozzle of my Takumi actually measures 0.38mm, more than double what the company claims. It's bigger than any of my 0.2mm airbrushes, even bigger than the 0.23mm nozzle of the Micron CMC, which is supposed to be larger as the number would suggest, because 0.23 is bigger than 0.18, right? So why is that? I don't have an official answer, but I can speculate. The original Olympos MP200 had a true 0.18mm nozzle and a needle about half the size of the Iwata Microns, but the air cap center hole was the same as on the Iwata. At 6 meters per second, the Olympos had a higher air velocity due to the wider air gap between the air cap center hole and their smaller nozzle. I believe Iwata wanted to reduce their air velocity to make the Micron more detail-oriented and allow the user having an easier time working at a very close distance to the work surface. They could have done this by either A. keeping the original nozzle design and narrowing the air cap center hole, or B, enlarging the nozzle while keeping the air cap center hole unaltered. It seems they chose the latter, most likely to cut manufacturing costs. A .38mm nozzle is cheaper and easier to produce than a .18mm, I assume. So why does Iwata still claim the Micron as a .18mm nozzle when it obviously doesn't? Again, I can only speculate, but I think it is for marketing purposes. To the average buyer ready to spend their hard-earned $600 on an airbrush after a couple of YouTube reviews told him it is the best detail airbrush in the world, a .38mm nozzle doesn't sound as precise as a .18, but hey, I could be wrong. What can we learn from this? We often believe smaller nozzles equals more detail, but the Micron prove it's not that simple. There are many variables that make an airbrush good for fine detail. The nozzle size is just one. The Micron's entire head assembly is what makes it spray so beautifully. Not everything can be explained by the numbers. The final question is, why would you spend $600 for an airbrush? Let's look at an hypothetical scenario. Your first airbrush was an Iwata Eclipse. It served you well for about a year. Now you want to take it to the next step. You really want to push your limits, and you believe the Micron can help you with that. But what's the actual advantage? It's not about fine lines. Any setup under 0.5mm can produce fine lines at a short distance. What makes the Micron special is its ability to produce an arrow spray pattern even at a greater distance. This is crucial in miniature painting, where 3D surfaces often force us to spray from awkward angles and distances. Let me show you what I mean with a quick experiment. I marked a stick at 1.5 inches from the tip, a realistic working distance in miniature painting, and used it to draw the thinnest lines I could on paper with both the Eclipse and the Micron. As you can see, the Micron's lines are significantly finer than the Eclipse at the same distance. To some, that might not seem like a big deal, but for someone like me trying to paint every tiny detail with the airbrush, it makes all the difference. So let's get into the spaghetti score, shall we? Number 1. Build quality. Not much to say here. The quality of Iwata is legendary. With the proper care, this airbrush will last you a lifetime. Combined with the hand-matched head assembly, the craftsmanship of this tool is of another level. 10 out of 10. Aesthetics. I will not say the Micron or most Japanese airbrushes are as attractive and flashy like some European or American competitors. It has a practical look that inspires details and precision. The large cap, it's a bit odd looking on such a small brush, to be honest. It looks much better with a smaller cup. Taking all this in consideration, I'll give it a 8 out of 10. Ergonomics, it's great. With the cap out of the way, despite the trigger being so close to the nozzle, the Micron will be a good fit for most users. The trigger square shape is quite unique. I find it very comfortable over long painting sessions. It provides great feedback and the texture is not too aggressive. I'm glad they didn't go with the cutaway handle on this one. I definitely prefer to paint without it. 9 out of 10. Number 4. Spray control. Exceptional for a detail airbrush of this caliber. Once the action has passed the paint initiation phase, the flow of paint is balanced and easy to control. Somehow, it is also quite forgiving with paint dilution, most likely because of the large-sized nozzle. I felt confident using this airbrush from the first time I put my hands on it, and within the first minute of use. 10 out of 10. Number 5. Trigger response. It is excellent. Paint initiation is quick without being too aggressive about it, and always on point. It is important to keep the needle tip clean to avoid delay and maintaining paint flow consistency. Overall, I find it very intuitive, predictable and reliable. 9 out of 10. Number 6. Atomization. Some of the best out there. The Micron shines at low pressure and I usually never push it over 15 psi. Definitely some of the best out there, but I do not think it's the absolute best as many like to claim. It's a strong 9 out of 10. Number 7. Versatility. Not exactly the most versatile airbrush out there. The Micron is a precision tool that shines at low PSI with properly reduced paint. Still, I've done some base coating by bumping up the PSI and using some thicker paint. It just can't do miracles due to the low air velocity. 6 out of 10. So on the previous 2 reviews, the score number 8 was ease of cleaning. I decided to change that because I want to keep the majority of the scores performance focused. I believe this is what most people care about when shopping for these tools. And therefore, number 8. Precision reach. The Micron excels at maintaining those fine lines even at a considerable distance. I don't believe there are many airbrushes in the market today that can match that. And this is probably one of the main reasons why the Micron is considered by many the king of detail. 10 out of 10. Number 9. Price to performance ratio. This will be the lowest scores I'm going to give to this airbrush. I don't care how amazing it is overpriced, and here is why. The Takumi costs about $600 in the United States. I can't justify it. Not when for approximately $180 the GSI Krios PS771 provides a comparable performance, the same amazing Japanese quality and attention to detail. Also, can somebody explain to me why the Micron Takumi comes only with a large cup? Even though I don't use more than 10 drops of reduced paint at a time for detail work. While the Eclipse Takumi, which is a general use airbrush much more suited for large paint jobs, also comes with a small cup. How does that make any sense? That means you will have to budget for a separate small cup in addition to the Micron. And trust me, you'll want that small cup. Everyone does. I'll give it a 5 out of 10 because we are talking about the Micron here, but I'm being generous. Number 10. Is it good for beginners? I do not recommend to buy this airbrush as a beginner, mostly because of how expensive it is, and most people who are just starting abuse the heck out of their first airbrush. Replacing just the nozzle of the Micron is $60. There are great airbrushes out there for that amount of money that I would recommend. However, I believe it is surprisingly easy to use for such a detailed airbrush. Responsive but not too aggressive. Requires properly reduced paint, but it's quite forgiving. I will say it is an airbrush friendly enough that you could quickly upgrade after some basic experience with dilution and cleaning practices. I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Let's bring it all together and the Iwata Custom Micron Takumi gets a spaghetti score of 83 out of 100. Considering the fact that I claim I didn't have much to talk about, this review was quite long. I keep telling myself to make these reviews shorter, but it's hard. There are just too many things I want to talk about. Please let me know what your thoughts are in the comments and if there is a particular airbrush you would like me to review. If you enjoyed this video, leave it a like and subscribe. And join me in the pursuit to become the fastest airbrush slinger in the West.